Colton hit me up and said, checking in from Fort Worth, Texas, in your opinion, who are some top freshmen to watch this season? Now, the way this is worded is not just who are the best true freshmen. He wants to know about ones to keep an eye on this season. I got some for you. I mean, these are guys who I don't think you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years to know about. McLean leads this list. And that's a guy whose recruitment was a circus. It was all over the place. But that's in the past now. He's just a college football player now. And he's at Colorado. And he was the 4th highest rated recruit they've ever signed in program history there. He will almost certainly start at corner day 1 for them, probably opposite Travis Hunter. Their defense at Colorado was the worst in FBS last year. They gave up 44.5 points per game. That was like 3 points worse per game than whoever was next to last. They are overhauling their entire roster. Jesse pulled me up a depth chart today for Colorado, and all the players that were outlined in gold were true freshmen. And it looked like El Dorado. It was wild. So, yeah, McLean is going to be on the field. So, one way or the other, that kid will be an impact freshman this year. I'll tell you another one in the secondary who I don't care if he's going to a loaded program, will be an impact freshman. Caleb Downs at Alabama, I fully expect to be an impact freshman. Caleb Downs was the #1 safety in the country, #8 overall player. I don't ever hear people compare high school recruits to Minkah Fitzpatrick at Alabama. That's almost like praise that is too lofty to even be uttered around there. Like a lot of those folks think Minkah Fitzpatrick's the best prospect, just pure prospect, regardless of position they ever got at Alabama. They're comparing Caleb Downs to Minkah Fitzpatrick is the reason I mentioned that. And I don't disagree. He is a monster. And I think that especially when you look at him being Max Prep's high school player of the year and all that, you've also got a depth chart situation that's pretty favorable for him to come in there and grab some playing time. I think Christian Story is going to be a big-time player for them this year, out of Lynette, Alabama, by the way. But I think Caleb Downs could be a big-time player for them, too. We saw Malachi Starks getting on the field as a true freshman for Georgia. I think Caleb Downs will be the SEC West's version of that this year. Branch is gone, Helms is gone, and frankly, even if they were there, they were going to have to knife fight to hold that kid off the #1 rotation in practice. He's just that good, really good. So you avoid injury. I think that 5-star there from Mill Creek in Georgia, I think he's going to be a big-time player for Alabama this year. Francis Mauigoa, that's one of those. 5-star offensive tackles Miami signed. He was the #2 offensive tackle in the country. He was the #6 overall player in the country. I have never been more sure that a true freshman is going to play. Even at offensive tackle, I've never been more sure in my life that a true freshman is going to play. I remember when A.J. Green and Julio Jones came in, and everyone knew, yep, those guys are going to play as freshmen. Well, that was at receiver. This is an offensive tackle. But because Miami is so void of quality players at that position, and because he's so good at that position, 6'6", 330, he will play. Probably start at right tackle. In fact, early returns from Miami spring practice is he's already running with the ones in spring at right tackle. So you've got a former offensive line coach who is the head coach there. Mario played offensive line there. He was an offensive line coach. And what I've noticed is when he's been asked about that guy, he smiles. Which can mean different things for different coaches, but when you got a former guy who's coached and played your own position who smiles when he talks about you before you've ever played down for him, it usually means they're pretty darn sure in what they have in you. And so Francis Mauigoa, very little surprise. I would be shocked if he's not starting for Miami at right tackle this year. Jonte Cook is a name that we've talked about a lot recently when we've referred to that Texas wide receiver room, and it's loaded. And we've got the the Latia Carters of the world out there disagreeing with me, but I maintain my stance. It's loaded. I gotta quit pronouncing Worthy's name wrong. I go really, really hard on the X, and it's just Xavier. It's not Xavier. But I had a kid, Xavier Hall, in 4th grade, who wanted the hard X on his name, and I therefore have cursed every other Xavier that I've come across since then because of him. Hope Xavier is doing well. But Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, A.D. Mitchell, transfer from Georgia, Isaiah Nair from Wyoming, 2nd year, and Jonte Cook. Everyone's just kind of saying, oh, Jonte Cook, redshirt him. Well, we'll see him next year. Well, you will, but I think you'll see him this year too. Now, what we probably won't have here is we probably will not have the necessity to play him right out of the gate every other down. What you probably will have with the next player I'm going to mention too is you'll probably have a flash player. Not a volume player this year, but a flash player. He is, I think, a guy who can get on the field regardless. I know they're pretty loaded up, and at the very worst, he provides quality depth. And this is also, man, it's the kind of guy Sark thrives with. Saw him do it with kids at Alabama. Jonte Cook is a kid who would fit in really well with that group that Sark had at Alabama. Zachariah Branch, since we're talking about receivers here, the number 1 overall receiver in the class, 7th overall rated player in the class, one of the 5 or 10 highest rated recruits USC's ever signed. He's 5'10", he's 170. Is he 170 or 190, Jesse? He's 170. He's fast. That's what I want you to know. Even with as loaded as their receiver room is, they may not have a kid faster. May not. I haven't clocked it, and frankly, if you've seen USC's practice field today, no one's running a 40 out there anytime soon. His brother's a DB at USC already. Out of this cycle, Cook at Texas and then Branch at USC, those are 2 guys, because of their skill set, who can come into pretty established receiver rooms and carve out a role for themselves. I don't think he's going to be a freshman All-American because he may be. I don't see him having that volume of catches and yards. I don't think he's a 1,000-yard guy. What I think he'll be is someone who racks up 450 yards or 500 yards or 600 yards, and there are 3 or 4 moments during the season where you go back and say, wow, what if we didn't have Jonte Cook on that 3rd down? What if we didn't have Zachariah Branch on that 2nd down? Remember the 2nd quarter? That was a game changer. That's the kind of player he can be, because he won't get a lion's share of the attention. Neither one of them will when they're on the field because they're true freshmen. And they are surrounded by a really good supporting cast. So loaded receiver rooms, both places, but they could still shine.